hate shutdowns. I'm one of the people that helped negotiate the solution to the end of the last shutdown. But I can't vote for a bill that includes ICE funding under these circumstances. What they're doing in my state, what we saw yesterday in Minneapolis, there's an easy way out, by the way. Leader Thune could separate, which is what they did in the House, separate the 5 other appropriation bills, put them on the floor. They would pass, I think, overwhelmingly. Then let's take up DHS. And by the way, if those bills pass, 96% of the federal government is funded. Yeah. Take up DHS by itself. Let's have an honest negotiation, put some guardrails on what's going on, some accountability, and that would solve this problem. We don't have to have a shutdown.
All right, Senator Angus King weighing in, Chuck Schumer taking the lead. They're going to defund DHS as if less funding is going to be great. Meanwhile, the big, beautiful bill funded up to 2029. Senator Markwayne Mullin joins us now. Senator, in the wake of the Minneapolis shooting, now Democrats are maneuvering to shut down the government again. Are you to believe that?
Well, they were maneuvering to shut down the government before that. The truth is, it's just another excuse because they were really interested in having reforms and accountability to DHS. Part of the DHS funding that we've been working extremely hard to work in a bipartisan manner included $20 million for every ICE agent to have a body camera on. You're talking about accountability. There you go. That's the best accountability you can have. When you start talking about reforms into DHS, okay, well, what is it that you're wanting? It's more than just saying you're going to vote no. What is it that you're wanting? Because there hasn't been a problem with DHS in any red states, any red cities where they actually have cooperation from local law enforcement or from the state and from the city mayor. There hasn't been any incidences like this. There hasn't been any shootings. There hasn't been violence and protests and riots. This is happening in blue cities and in blue states where you have no cooperation with with DHS from, by the way, doing their job, and you have no issues with rioting going on in the streets. It's poor leadership and rhetoric that's coming out of the left that's causing these problems to begin with. But listen, it's an excuse, Brian, for them to simply vote no on a piece of legislation that would fund the government.
I want you to hear AOC cut 8.
If we do not do something now, I do not know what can happen afterwards. We have to contain this chaos. This administration is declaring an openness and a justification for violence against American citizens based on their organizing, based on their political affiliation, and they are using the guise of DHS to do it. We have to draw a line in the sand now across sectors, politically, economically, in our media, and more.
Do you hear that among other Democrats, or is she out there on a left-wing island?
No, you're hearing this same rhetoric. Do something. What is something? You're talking about rhetoric and organizing. Isn't that exactly what the Democrats are doing? They're putting out rhetoric, basically saying that, I'm not basically saying, Brian, they're saying that they need to arm themselves. They need to fight. I mean, you had the AG out of Arizona, leftist Democrat that was elected that said that the stand the ground rules would apply to shooting ICE agents. Really? You have Governor Walz, who's been out there saying that they have been occupied by an illegal force and that they need to fight against them. That's rhetoric. When you start seeing organizations that are being paid to go out there and protest and obstruct law enforcement from doing their lawful job, that is exactly what the left is doing. Why AOC is accusing the right of doing that, I don't get it. But once again, it's rhetoric that they are saying for an excuse to vote no and fight something against President Trump because they're Trump derangement.
So this is what Barack Obama said. People across the country have been outraged by the spectacle of masked ICE recruits. Believe this? He said masked ICE recruits. He knows why they're wearing masks, but he still does it. And other federal agents acting with impunity and engaging in tactics that seem designated to intimidate, harass, and provoke and endanger the residents of a major city. ICE needs to leave the state. So this guy who knows what ICE is against, knows their approach, knows their training, says masked ICE recruits. I mean, and he doesn't cite at all the mayor and governor for playing a role. So much for being, in the post-presidency, being a guiding force or a calming force?
Well, Barack Obama could have united the country if he chose to actually tell his true story, except he incited more racism than our country had seen in decades. He had an opportunity to actually share what being an American's all about, where you can pull yourself up from absolutely nothing and become the president of the United States. He chose to take a different path. And since he's been out of the White House, he has continued to weigh in, not showing his love for America, but showing his loyalty to what? To the Democrat Party. And it's shameful that you see this. I mean, I know you hear it from Hillary Clinton, rhetoric like this, but Hillary Clinton was never elected to presidency. But you don't hear it from Bill Clinton. You didn't even hear this kind of rhetoric from Jimmy Carter. You definitely don't hear it. You definitely didn't hear it from either one of the Bushes. Because why? When they get out, they understand the decisions that the president of the United States has to make. But Barack Obama can't help himself because it's about the Democrat Party, not about America.
But James Cohen, how do you feel, Senator, about what should be next? Because I saw the president of the United States put on Truth Social. He's sending Tom Homan out there. He's going to take over the Minneapolis situation and report directly to the president. Are you in support of that? And have you also noticed the friction between the DHS, Tom Homan, and specifically Kristi Noem, where they don't even speak to each other?
Well, I don't know if they necessarily don't speak to each other through friction. They just are running in different lanes. DHS is a huge organization that has to, I mean, they deal with a lot more than just electing or arresting illegals inside our cities and states. There's a lot of international work that's been done. I see that Kristi Noem and Tom Homan has kind of split some responsibilities. Of course, there's always different ideas. When you have two strong personalities and two leaders in one place, they may have different opinions, but they're still fighting for the same thing. Illegals out.
Do you like this move?
You know, I'm not making the decision. President Trump is making the decision, and I think Tom can go in there and help with messaging. I don't know if he's going to be actually leading and organizing what's going on on the ground. But as far as messaging and getting out there in front of it, I believe Tom will be a good person for it.
So, Bill Melugin, you know how great he does on the border, how great his connections are. He's reporting that there's people are really upset by the way, I guess leadership has been characterizing this latest shooting and everything on down. They say the morale is extremely low because of it. And he's saying that it's really PR 101. And they're losing the message. So they're proud of what they're doing, but between Border Patrol and DHS and the leadership that's speaking out, it's making the people that work underneath them very uncomfortable. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard that, but it appears to me that leadership in DHS has their officers back, which is exactly what they need to have. They need to be thorough in an investigation on every move that they make, but at the same time, don't jump to conclusion and assume they're guilty, like in the past it's been with law enforcement underneath Democrat leadership. And I think that's why Tom Homan is probably getting dispatched to Minneapolis to help with that messaging. Because I know the DHS officers and ICE agents that I have talked to, and over the years, you've created a friendship from those that were on the border that's been moved up north and those that were up north that came down south. You have a friendship, and they seem to be very excited about actually being able to do their job.
Yeah, this is what the quote from that Bill Melugin got. The sources told him a response to the shooting is a case study of how not to do crisis PR. The DHS is making the situation worse, and the DHS is wrong, and we are losing the war. We are losing the base and the narrative. I think only 24% support what the president's doing, when in reality, what the president's doing is getting rid of the worst of the worst. But I think that maybe some in the Border Patrol and DHS kind of losing their way, and because it's been maddening being on the ground without any local police support.
Yeah, I don't think the support is weighing away from the president in this. I mean, there's some rhetoric that you get tired of every now and then, but people elected President Trump because they wanted to restore law and order and get the criminals off our streets, even if it's in blue states. And the truth is, you walk around Washington, D.C., it's safer. You walk around Memphis, it's safer. You walk around New Orleans, it is safer. You walk around St. Louis, it is safer. The places where we've had cooperation with local law enforcement and local officials, it has been very, very, very effective. I mean, my goodness, even the mayor of Washington, D.C. came out and admitted that their streets are safer. What you're seeing is a rhetoric that's coming out of Minneapolis and out of Minnesota that is inciting this type of behavior. And I think most American people can see that. That's not going to prevent DHS and ICE agents from doing their job. They have a job to deport these locals. Now, just think about this. They wouldn't even be on the streets having to arrest these individuals if local law enforcement and the sheriffs were doing their job. And then ICE would only have to go to the detention centers and pick the individuals up and deport them. That's how it works in most cities and most states. But that isn't what's happening in Minnesota. Instead, they became a sanctuary city. And instead of taking care of law and order and taxpayer citizens, they're protecting criminals. And let me tell you, I don't care if you've been here 1 year or 20 years. If you're here in this country illegally, you're a criminal. It doesn't make any difference. There's no difference between a small crime and a large crime. You're still a criminal.
So, Senator, a different note. Looks like we moved, in the president's words, an armada into the Persian Gulf. Now it's emerging that Iran could have killed as many as 30,000 of their protesters. The Ayatollah hiding in a bunker. It's easy to lose this story, but I don't think we should. Where do you think we're heading with this? And what do you think the president's options are? Because the one fear you have, the Ayatollah goes and in comes the Revolutionary Guard. They might be worse.
Well, the Revolutionary Guard is like the SS to the Germans underneath Hitler. And so we know the Revolutionary Guard is extreme and they support the Ayatollah. Truth is, this is going to be the president's timing. Keep in mind, the Ayatollah is 86 years old. He could croak over at any given time. We made it very clear during the 12-day war, we could have taken him out at that time. If we could take him out then, I'm sure we can take him out now. But what we have to realize is what's next. Okay, so who's the next leader of Iran? Because what we don't want is Iran to become a vacuum for ISIS or Al-Qaeda or the Taliban, or for Erdogan and Turkey to try to come in and take over the oil fields and try to, as he would say, stabilize the country, but it's really taking over the revenue. We want Iran to actually be the democracy that they used to be prior to 1979 when the Ayatollah came into place. And I've said this before. My family, my parents, they remember when Iran was as westernized as the United States. They had more women elected to office than the United States did. They had more women in the professional world than the United States did. And the Ayatollah stopped all that. And we want Iran to be able to get back to that. And so if we just simply take out one leadership and we don't have a plan for someone else, it could be disastrous like the Arab Spring underneath Hillary Clinton that destabilized the entire region.
I know, that's a little worrisome. I'm also fascinated by what's happening in China. They fired some of their leading generals, including the most senior general, who they accused of leaking nuclear secrets to us. They have not had a war or any battle since 1979. And now they get rid of their senior military leadership. Now, I know you're on armed services and get briefed on things to this nature, but what could you tell our audience about what this means?
Well, we have been getting outflanked by President Xi for almost 15 years. What's taken place is President Trump has took that chessboard and knocked it over, and he has been completely running circles around China. They're in some real serious problems. He blew up the One Belt, One Road initiative by going and restructuring the trade deals we had with all these countries, which the One Belt, One Road was to economically drive all the economy towards China. Because of the restructuring and the trillions of dollars now that's going to be invested inside the United States, that blew that up. When you start seeing what he did with energy by taking away the ability for China to buy cheap energy on the black market, he's now caused their energy costs to go up by over 30%, which is going to greatly deprive their yen. So what you've seen is that President Xi is in a complete disarray, and what you do is you start blaming everybody around you rather than looking at yourself, and which that's poor leadership, but that's what communism is all about.
And that's also there's something about the way their military is looking or not executing that he feels he's going to take this huge risk in gutting all the senior leaders. So, right. Sadly, we can't say that we haven't seen a lot of action. Our men and women have seen a lot of action. They constantly train for all different types of battle. China might have the money and armada. They have no experience doing anything.
Right. There's no country that could have pulled off what we did in Iran and what we did in Venezuela than the United States. And Russia and China both know that. Every time they think they're catching up with us, President Trump is able to show what the might of the United States is by peace through strength, and it scares the living daylights out of them.
And lastly, how you guys doing in the ice? I heard you guys got hit pretty hard with the ice and the snow.
Well, it has been very interesting. You know, it kind of brought us to a standstill. We're digging our way out today, but it's beautiful, and I've got to spend a couple of days with my family uninterrupted, so that was nice. But we did a lot of sledding. I might have threw a few kids off of tubes, but it's fun until it gets where it's disrupting our economy, which today it's going to hit a little bit.
You don't like the Mullins getting bored. Then the mats come out and you guys just start wrestling each other.
We had that too. We got some video of that. I just won't post it.
All right, good. Senator Markwayne Mullin, thanks so much. Stay safe.
Thank you, sir.